Hello and welcome to English for You. We're back.
We are back.
We are back in the studio. Yay. And we're talking today about high school, somewhere that you guys are hopefully back at now.
Right, exactly. So either you're at high school or maybe you're still doing distance learning. We're not sure at this point. But we're talking about not really where you're doing school, but how long you're doing school.
How you're learning.
So how was high school for you? What kind of experience did you have?
I think I had quite a positive high school experience. I liked my high school. I know it was much smaller than American schools. UK schools are much smaller. Like, I think we had maybe 1,000 people in the school.
Oh, I think that was about my graduating class is about 600 people.
Oh, no, I mean the whole school was 1,000 people, not the class.
Yeah, I think it depends on the school, but I think my school had like 1,200 people. Let's say
1,200 people
for 3 grades. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. And did you have very long days there, or was it?
We had our normal times were about 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or like 2:45 p.m. And after that, we had clubs and stuff like that. How about you?
That's nice and early. I had to be in school. My registration was at 8 a.m. And then we got off at about 3:45.
Oh.
So it was longer than most school days. Normally in the UK, high schools finish at 3. But we had quite a long lunch break as well. We had like an hour and a half off at lunch. So So it was like more spread out, really. Yeah. So it was okay. We had no bushy bands to go to afterwards, though.
No, we didn't either. We don't do bushy bands in the US or the UK.
No.
But school is very different here. And I think there's quite long hours in high school.
Right. I've been reading about that. They seem to have very long hours here in Taiwan. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in today's article. So let's get started.
Reading.
Are Taiwanese school hours too long? Leo and Grace both represent a high school student council. Leo has an idea and wants to talk about it with Grace.
I think high schools in Taiwan should start at a later time. What do you think?
Why do you think that is necessary?
Well, I feel that students are often too tired to focus properly because we spend so much time studying. Other countries' school systems seem to work fine with shorter hours. In the US, schools often start at 8 a.m. and finish at about 3 p.m. It's the same story in the UK.
I think I agree with you. It might enable families to spend more time at breakfast together, too. It could also leave more time for students to explore their own interests and hobbies outside school.
Right.
Will teachers have enough time to cover all the class material, though?
That's a good point. I guess the curriculum might need to be organized differently.
Let's send a proposal to the government to let them know our thoughts.
Okay, so today's article is a TOEIC article and it's set in a high school. That's what we know from the first sentence.
Yes.
Leo and Grace both represent a high school student council. Okay, Leo has an idea and wants to talk about it with Grace. So lots of ideas in that sentence. The first one is this word represent, which is one of our vocab words. It's a verb, represent, rep. When you represent someone or a group of people, you communicate on behalf of them. So normally in an official way. So the student council is an organization and there's probably a lot of people in it. Because Leo and Grace represent the council, it's their job to speak to the school teachers, maybe speak to the students as well and find out what they want. Yeah, just to communicate, basically, to speak for them. Another way of looking at it is to think about lawyers. So that's 一为律师. So when you go to court, if you commit a crime, you don't defend yourself. You get a very professional person who knows
unless you
a lot.
are a lawyer.
Unless you are a lawyer, yeah. Normally you get a very professional person who knows a lot about law to speak for you, and because they're going to know much more about the system and everything. And so those lawyers are representing you. So yeah, so basically that's how that would work in that case. Let's move on now to our example sentence. Okay, so our example sentence is, the protesters in this march are representing all the unhappy people in their community. So the protesters aren't all the unhappy people in the community. They are just showing, they're being there on the street and showing that them, they, and lots of other people are unhappy. So they're representing those people.
And then we saw this other word or phrase in here that they are saying they represent the student council. Now, you kind of said what this is already. It's a group of students that represent the students, and they also talk to the teacher. It's kind of like student government. Like, if they are elected by the other students, they help plan and organize activities and events and stuff like that. And they also talk about how to make changes for the student population at the school. So yeah, it's essentially like a student government. They talk to everybody and make sure that the important things get done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think in the UK, in universities, we normally call them student unions as well. I'm not sure what you call them in the US.
We have student unions, but I think it's more like it's more like a senate even.
I see.
Yeah, because you can have like a student government with different branches.
Okay, so it's US schools are huge, so...
Well, at universities, certainly they are.
Yeah, okay, they are very big. Anyway, let's get into our dialogue.
Right, so we have Grace and Leo, they're talking about something as student council members. Leo says, I think high schools in Taiwan should start at a later time. What do you think? It's a good question.
It is a good question. Do we know what time they start in Taiwan?
I think it's 8 a.m. or they have to be at school at 7 a.m.
They have to be at school at 7 a.m. That does sound pretty early.
I would
agree with Leo. Anyway, Grace needs to see some reasons because she says, why do you think that is necessary? So necessary, remember, is something that needs to happen. So she's basically saying, why do you think we need to do that?
That's a good question. Of course, you want to present a good argument when you are talking about things like this, which are big changes. And Leo says, well, I feel that students are often too tired to focus properly because we spend so much time studying. I think that's a really good point. And we have this word in here that Leo uses, properly. Let's find out what that means. So properly is an adverb, and of course you can tell that by the ly at the end. Properly means in a way that is accurate or correct, or kind of in a way that's suitable or right for a situation. So of course it comes from the adjective proper. If you have proper behavior, that means you have good manners. If you say you're going to fix something properly, it basically means do it right the first time. Always do it the right way. Don't slack off. Don't be lazy. If you do your homework properly, that means that you really put your whole mind to it. You weren't lazy about it. You didn't skip anything or go too fast. You did it properly. You did it right. And the opposite would be improper or improperly. So an example sentence for properly could be, you didn't fill out this form properly. You forgot to put your full name and your home address. So you have to make sure that everything is filled out in order to do it right or properly.
Okay, so I think Leo now is starting to give his reasons why he wants to make the school day start a little later. He says, other countries' school systems seem to work just fine, or seem to work fine with shorter hours. Okay, so they seem to be okay, starting at maybe 8, maybe 9.
Yeah, exactly. So, in Europe, I think they would start even shorter than this. But he points out in the article, in the US, schools often start at 8 a.m. and finish at about 3 p.m. It's the same story in the UK, like we just said. Yeah, it's true. Mine started at 8 a.m. and finished, well, when I was in junior high, it's finished at 3:15. And then when I was in high school, it finished at 2:45.
Okay, that's not that bad. I remember though, when I was living in Spain, I used to work at an elementary school. And elementary schools in Spain have really short days. So they have one of two systems. One is 9 to 12 and 3 to 5. So they have a 3-hour lunch break.
Oh, wow. Because they have their siesta, right?
Yeah, they have their siesta. Or they just do 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and that's it.
Fair.
So I think some days they do half days so they can do activities. So that's something I really liked about it, is they had one day where they would have a shorter day to encourage them to do other things rather than
just learning.
Making them just study
nose to
until
the
midnight.
books.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're kids, right? You need...
Yeah, kids need to be active. Kids need to use their bodies as well as their minds. Yeah, so yeah. I also took 0 hour when I was a junior in high school though. And that did start at 7 a.m. But that was my choice because I wanted to graduate early. So I wanted to take more classes than I had to. I also took summer classes. I didn't end up graduating early. I still had to take maybe 2 classes that were required.
That's annoying.
I know. But the rest of the time I just took music.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so you're not doing extra biology?
No.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so Grace says, I think I agree with you. Okay, so she sees that's a good point. And she adds, it might enable families to spend more time at breakfast together too. That's a cute idea. I never spent time with my family at breakfast, really. Everybody was running away.
One of my parents would always cook me breakfast and I would sit down and eat it, but then I would leave right after.
Exactly. I feel like when you're a teenager, you're like, oh, Mom.
Yeah, and I have no appetite in the morning. It's so early, I'm like, I don't want to eat.
I wake up hangry. Anyway, we're going to look at our next vocab word, which isn't hangry, it's enable. Okay, so enable is a verb and it means to make possible to do. For example, the invention of the telephone enabled conversations between people across great distances. Obviously, before the telephone, you would have to be in the same room as someone to talk to them. But after the telephone, people could speak to people in Japan, or they could speak to someone in the US. You know, you could speak to someone anywhere. And that's because the telephone enabled that. It made it possible. Normally, we use enable someone to do something or make them able to do something. So if we look back at the article topic for a second, then an example of how to use enable in this way might be, a later school start time will enable kids to sleep in a little later. In other words, the later school time will allow kids to sleep more.
Yeah, so if students were able to, have a later start, they could sleep more. It would enable them to also have breakfast with their families, which would be really nice. I think it's important for families to spend that time together. So the article says, or Leo says, it could also leave more time for students to explore their own interests and hobbies outside school. I think that's extremely important, very important. So explore here is this verb that means learn about something by trying it or kind of doing something new. So exploring new activities. It's a way of discovering what you like. Or if you're exploring a topic, that could mean you are talking about something in a thoughtful way, like we're exploring the topic of school start times right now. That's what we're doing. Or, it's a little different than literally going to a new place and learning about it by seeing it, like being an explorer. But you can also explore your interests, I think. And so an example sentence could be, Leo is exploring the world of music production these days by learning how to mix songs and make great recordings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So Leo says, okay, this is an easy line. He says, right. Okay, so he's agreeing. He's saying 没错.
Yeah. So actually it was Grace who was pointing that out.
Yes.
But she has another question. Will teachers have enough time to cover all the class material though? That's a good question.
Yeah,
because
that is a good question.
there is a lot to learn in a school day, but it doesn't mean you need to spend the entire day learning it. You can be more efficient. And we'll talk about that word later, but first we have to talk about material. Material or materials are something used in doing a particular kind of activity. So if you're talking about in school, your teachers will make and pass out class materials. Things like papers, homework, handouts, anything that you're going to do in school, it's your class material. Or project materials, design materials, building materials, which are what buildings are made out of. Or it could be information or ideas that kind of inspire you, like getting material for a news article, getting material for a comedy sketch, something like that. That's material. So an example sentence for material might be, we need better materials for this art class. So like maybe better art supplies. So far, we only have one cheap paint set.
That's not a lot of materials.
No.
No. So Leo says that's a good point. So he's agreeing again. I guess the curriculum might need to be organized differently. Right. You could make the argument that a shorter school day would make it impossible to teach everything.
Yeah.
But if you don't need to learn everything in the curriculum, then it's a bit of a moot point.
A moot point.
A moot point. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
It's moot.
It's moot. Okay, anyway, we're not learning about moot now, we're learning about the word curriculum. Now, curriculum is a noun, and it's basically a study plan for a whole class, grade, or school system. The curriculum for a literature class, for example, might include the books you have to read, how the teacher will test you, and any essays you have to write to complete the class.
Yes.
A school curriculum, meanwhile, might include the exams you need to pass to proceed from one grade to another. So it's like a big system for getting through any kind of education, basically.
Yeah, any kind of class.
Exactly. We also saw the word organize. So let's look a little closer at that now. Okay, so when we organize things, we order them in a particular way. Okay, so this is a verb, and we normally organize things so that they are neat, tidy, or well planned. At English for You, for example, each month we have grammar and vocabulary that we want to teach you. So we organize the articles and exercises in our magazine into a specific order so you will find it entertaining and easy to use. I kind of sound like an ad right now. So that would basically be organizing things. But if you have a messy bedroom and you want to make it tidy, you can also organize your personal belongings so that your room looks nice and tidy. That's another way you can use this word. Let's look at an example sentence. TV channels organize their content so that shows just for adults normally appear very late in the evening. Meanwhile, we can also talk about someone who is organized. So this is an adjective now. And someone who is organized is someone who can use their time efficiently, or someone who is very neat and tidy. Okay, that person who has all their books in a nice order, their room's always clean, that's an organized person. So Kat, are you an organized person? Are you good at time management, planning your day out well?
Okay, when it comes to work, I think I'm okay at it.
Yeah, I always saw you with your timetable in the morning on the desk. It always seems like you have a good idea of what you're doing.
I try to. Sometimes I'm a little bit late on things, but yeah, generally. But as far as home, I think I'm like average. I'm okay, not great, but yeah. So anyway, but you need to definitely think about organizing a curriculum because it's really important for students to learn everything they need to learn in a day.
Very true.
So Grace says, let's send a proposal to the government to let them know our thoughts. I think that's a good idea, especially coming from students who it directly affects.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are they going to send? They're going to send something called a proposal.
A wedding proposal?
No, not a will you marry me proposal. It's something like a plan or suggestion. And you present it to a person or a group of people, usually like your bosses, your teachers, or the government in this case, to consider, to think about, to say like, hey, here's an idea that I have for you. What do you think? Please do it, right? So it's a formal way of asking somebody to do something. Usually you write them a letter, you might give a presentation, they can accept or reject it, but the most important thing is that you propose it to them. That's a verb. And as we said, it also means asking someone to marry you if you propose to somebody. Yeah.
Exactly.
So an example sentence could be, the teachers made a proposal to the government in order for their school to get more money. That's called a grant.
That would be. Okay, I think we're out of time for the first day, so let's go to our For You chat now, and then tomorrow we can look more at the proposal that they write.
Exactly. Let's go.
For You chat.
Okay, so our For You chat question for today is, what do you think are some reasons for keeping Taiwan's long school hours? Okay.
Okay. Subjectively, in my personal opinion, I don't think they should be as long as they are. But if I have to look at the other side, I will say that there's a lot of exam material that students have to think about when they're like going to high school, going to college. And they also have two languages, very complicated languages to learn. Chinese has so many characters that they have to be perfect at, and English is also really complicated.
That's true. That's true. Especially now that they want Taiwan to become a bilingual country. I guess that they need the extra time.
They do.
I would also say that it's helpful for some parents because, you know, it's also for younger kids, it's kind of it's childcare, you know?
Yeah, but you know, school is not a babysitting service.
But I'm just trying to think of reasons why they would keep the long hours. I also agree with you. I think they should be shorter. But sometimes we have to try and think about what other people's point of view is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think that if they, especially with their very competitive exam system, you guys have a lot to prepare for and you have a lot of people to compete against.
Yeah,
however, if you can learn to study smartly instead of study hard, then you might not need to do so many hours and you can still do well.
Yeah, we say in English, work smarter, not harder.
Yes, exactly. So if you can think of a way of being efficient, that's better than spending 9 hours on something.
Yeah, exactly. So
anyway.
That's what we've got for day 1. And as you said, in day 2, we're going to take a look at the proposal that they are sending to the government. We think that they'll have some good ideas in it, but we'll have to see tomorrow. So for now, for English for You, I'm Kat.
And I'm Seb.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Represent. This man represents a bank and is here to talk to us about saving money. Properly. Do you know how to cook rice properly? If not, I can teach you. Enable. This TV will also enable you to watch shows and movies from the internet. Explore. Let's explore other possibilities for our vacation this year, because we always go to the same places. Material. The teacher spends most of her evenings preparing material for her classes. Organize. Can you help me organize the office? We need to find ways to allow people to work together better.
智慧小补帖
Student Council. Curriculum. Proposal.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net